Hello fellow animal lovers, I'm Annie with Happy Anniemals and welcome to my video. So you think you want a pet bunny? Please watch this first. 12 things you have to know before you adopt a bunny. So I am recording this for you because I have 4 rescue bunnies and they definitely keep me hopping. And the adoption of these bunnies and the care of these bunnies and my research to help give them the best care has given me a lot of information that I think is really important to share. So my intention with this is to help you determine whether you are a match for a pet bunny. We have a lot of overpopulation of domestic bunnies, and it's really sad and heartbreaking because bunnies are such loving creatures and they need good homes just like any cat or dog. And because of irresponsible breeding and not matching up with the perfect home by educating people before they adopt a bunny is the biggest cause of this. So I'd like to help with this by making this recording for you to help you know some things before so you can see if this is for you. Okay, so let's go into 12 things you need to know in order to determine if you can give a bunny their forever home. Bunnies can make amazing pets. They're so cuddly and lovable and fun and playful, and in many ways very easy to manage. They make amazing pets for families and kids. They can teach responsibility in a manageable way and care of an animal, and they're just adorable and super fun and really can help us emotionally as well. But there are definitely some things to know before you make the commitment. The first thing to know is that domestic rabbits can live between 6 and 12 years in a home environment. And some I've even heard of living longer than that. I heard of one bunny, someone in my neighborhood was telling me that they knew someone that had a pet bunny for 20 years. So it is definitely a big commitment. It can be as big a commitment as a cat or a dog. So it is important to know that going in, that while the lifespan could be shorter, 4 to 6 years in some cases, it can stretch longer. So there's definitely a chance for a bigger commitment, and it's important to know that getting into it. Okay, so the second thing to know is that many bunnies love to cuddle, and they actually do need to be handled. Sometimes you will come across a bunny that maybe is a rescue bunny or has had some traumas, and maybe they need a little bit more work, and maybe they just like to be pet and not held, and there are different situations, but it is really important to know that to keep them happy and healthy, they will need to be handled, and you can't just put them in a pen outside and just say hi every once in a while and feed them. Okay, so this is definitely a pet that needs to be interacted with. They want to be interacted with, and even though they love to lounge, they do a lot of lounging, they definitely also need and want to have that physical time, and they can be major cuddle bugs. Okay, so 3 of my 4 bunnies love to cuddle. When I hold them, they don't want to be put down, and I just have to eventually put them down because I have things to do. But I can also tell you that I do carry some of my bunnies around in what I used to use for my kids' baby carrier. I have a baby carrier that straps around, and I've modified it. And some of the bunnies have even gone on walks with me, and they just love to be close and they love to be cuddled. So you definitely need to know that because they're not something, that you can just put away and not interact with. The second thing you need to know before adopting a bunny is that bunnies can sometimes get along very well with other domestic animals that could be in a prey-predator situation. So like my very sweet older border collie loves to play and even will kiss and nuzzle my bunnies. But you have to be very careful introducing into that situation, and you might need help with that, especially, and you can kind of start to test it out if your dog or your cat is giving your bunny the eye in the hutch and they're kind of stalking them, and or if your animal can be unpredictable. You definitely want to keep your bunny safe by not mixing them. But it is possible in certain circumstances that you just need to do a lot of research, use your intuition, use your discernment, use your knowledge of your other pets to really make the decision about how you're going to do this. And in many cases, you might have to really protect your bunny. I've seen situations where, they do kind of like other animals can stalk the bunny and just kind of be waiting. So you don't want to bring a bunny into a situation like that, and it's good to really assess that before you get the bunny. Okay, so the third thing you definitely need to know before adopting a bunny is bunnies are really smart. I think all animals are much smarter than people give them credit for, and the more you spend time with them, the more you really see that. Bunnies also can be litter trained, and they like to be litter trained. Most bunnies do not like to make a mess. And in fact, I have seen, especially if bunnies have their own space in their own hutch, that they are very likely to be pretty clean. And they want to do that, and they can be trained to do that. So it's, at some point I'll do a separate video about this, but it's good to know going into it. One of my bunnies, he's an American rabbit, that's his breed. He is so smart that he knows when it's time to go in his crate. And sometimes I can say, okay, it's time to go in, and he'll start to go in. So it's good to know that they actually can be trained, and they do like to be mentally engaged, and they do need to be mentally engaged in some ways, either with toys or other things, interactions. The fourth thing you need to know before adopting a bunny. So it is a good thing that they can be potty trained, because they do poop a lot. And this is the next thing to know. Bunny poop is far preferable in its smell and texture to clean than cat poop or dog poop or anything like that. And I think even bird poop and, reptile poop, to me, it's much easier and actually can be used as compost, which is cool. But depending on what kind of litter you're using, I'll make a separate video about that at some point. But you definitely will be scooping and refreshing its litter at least twice. If you're taking good care of your animal, it will be at least twice, but preferably it's more than that. 3 or 4 times a day if you're home. If you're not and you can only do it twice a day, then that's fine. But if you're around, they really need that care. We make a habit, me and my kids will take a shift. So we've got, 3 shifts. And then if there's some excess in between, we'll just take care of that. Bunny poop is dry. And since they're vegetarians, it really doesn't smell as terrible. And it is pretty easy to clean, but you do really need to clean it up. The fifth thing you must know before you consider adopting a bunny is that, so while the bunny poop is pretty manageable, bunny pee is pretty gross. Okay, so that's the next thing to know, is that it is kind of thick, it's brown, you'll want to definitely pay attention to trying to litter train them and avoid having the pee in places that it's not supposed to be. And you can do that by not mixing bunnies. I'll talk about this later, and I will make a separate video about this, but the tendency to want to mark, or if they smell other animals, it is like other dogs in that way. So if you have a free space where you keep multiple bunnies, if they smell the other bunnies, they will be more likely to mark. We have free space that's separate for all of our bunnies. So when they come out of their crates, the place that they go into to be free is different from the places that the other ones go into to be free, because we've seen that they tend to go to the bathroom on the floor when we combine the spaces, but when we don't, they keep into their litter box. And in fact, the ones who have free spaces close to their crates, when we keep the door open, they'll just hop back in the crate when they have to go to the bathroom. And if they're not near their crate, we put a litter pan when they're having their free space. And for the most part, they'll actually go in the litter pan. But that's only if they have their own space. Okay, so you don't want to get bunny pee on the floor. It's yucky. Okay, and it is also important to be cleaning out the litter box regularly, because they do often lay in it. It is comfy and cozy for them, and you'll want it to be as clean as possible, especially since you're hopefully going to be handling your bunnies, or you and your family are going to be handling the bunnies. So you want to keep everything really clean for them. Okay, so the number 7 thing to know is that bunnies have personalities. So it's good to know a bunny a bit before you adopt it, if possible, to observe it, to get into a meet and greet if it's in a shelter, because they do have personalities just as big and as different as humans and other animals do. And sometimes you can have a clash. You can have a clash with certain animals and their personalities, or it might not be a match. There are certain bunnies that are more reserved and like to hide more, and they might require, a little bit more patience to try to give them attention that they need, and there might be reasons why that happened to them. But if you're wanting to get a very cuddly bunny for yourself or your child to play with, then you definitely don't want to get one that is going to be traumatized every time you try to go near it. Now, that also being said, you do have to honor the bunny's boundaries, because they will bite if they don't like what you're doing, and they can hurt. I have a little cut here from my bunny. I came at him a little too quickly just to help him get out of the crate to clean it up for him, and I wasn't slow in my motions, and he felt attacked, so he bit me, and that does happen. So you definitely have to know not only that they have personalities, but that they do communicate, and you can honor them and not just assume that you can always pick them up. Pay attention to their cues. If you're picking them up and they seem really uncomfortable and they're trying to get free, we've noticed that sometimes when the bunnies that we cuddle with are trying to get free, it's because they have to go to the bathroom, and they can save an accident in somewhere where we don't want it to be if we just let them be free and then go back to their crate to do their business. So yeah, you can definitely communicate with them. They definitely have personalities. Something else on this topic is that males and males, I've seen, maybe there are going to be exceptions, and there always are exceptions, but often males get territorial and they don't like to mix with the other males, and they will, spray or pee or poop more, and can become aggressive, actually. So like just throwing two males in a crate together is really not nice for the animals, unless you're sure that works for them, and you'd have to know that. And males and females, even if they're spayed and neutered, which hopefully they will be, don't always mix well, because the urge to breed is still pretty strong. And when you mix a male bunny with a female bunny, they tend to be on the female bunny a lot, and that tends to traumatize the female bunny. And in fact, the one female that we have, she is kind of traumatized from being with male litter mates. So, we're getting her worked into, having an easier time being touched and, not being as stressed. So it's definitely something to consider that, they do have complex relationships and interactions with others. There are some bunnies that just do not like another bunny, and other ones that maybe will get along better. Okay, number 8, you need to get your bunny spayed or neutered. Okay, you have to be responsible with this. Bunnies breed very fast. Everyone knows about the relationship between fertility and bunnies, right? So it is responsible to get them spayed and neutered. Even if you want to have baby bunnies, there are so many homeless and abandoned and otherwise abused or neglected bunnies, because people want to get the bunnies, they bring them for Easter, and then they don't even know what to do with them, and they wind up in rescues, or people release them, which is a terrible thing to do. Please don't do that. So you definitely need to get your bunny spayed or neutered. You have to be very responsible. And if you want a bunny, look into getting a rescue bunny. If you look up rescue bunny in your state, there's usually, like I know right now in Florida, there's 120 rescue bunnies that are on this national site. And that may or may not include ones that are in shelters, and they seem to stream into shelters constantly. So that's definitely something to know. Okay, number 9. Yes, you can and should get your bunny microchipped. I did not know about this. It had never occurred to me, but they chipped our bunnies at the rescue, and I highly recommend that. Now, once you get them chipped, you do have to call and register and pay a fee. But like for us, it was $96 for a lifetime, chip access. So, and I think they have, other payments, maybe $30 a year or something if you want to do it that way. The urge to breed can be strong even in fixed rabbits, and they are curious, and they can be fast, very fast. So you definitely want to chip them to make sure that if they do wander, they're returned safely. Now, of course, that being said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and you do want to safeguard to prevent. They're tricksy, they dig, they dart, they hide. And they do like to be covered by things, so they do tend to go for places where there's a cover, whether it's inside or outside. So, you know, you want to safeguard the space to avoid any possible problem, but it's a good idea to have them chipped, just in case. Okay, number 10, bunnies eat a lot of hay, right? So if you or someone in your family has bad allergies and it's hay fever, like literally hay, sometimes people call hay fever, you know, an allergic response to pollen, and that might not be the same thing. You could have hay fever and be perfectly fine with actual hay itself. But if you do have a hay allergy or someone in your household, you're going to have a plan for this, and it might not be a perfect match for you because somebody has to handle the hay. The hay has to be stored. The hay will be airborne in whatever area it's stored. It does tend to get all over the place when you're trying to manage it. If the bunny is inside, which hopefully it is, because, you know, most of the places in the world are not temperature okay for bunnies all year round outside, unless you have a heating, you know, unit, and I'm not getting into that in this video, but wherever your bunny is, whoever's handling, you have to make sure that the person who's going to handle, or that there's a person in your household that can handle the hay, because they go through it like crazy. It's critical for them. Yeah, so you have to know that. Now, bunnies themselves are not as allergenic as other animals. So the dander on bunnies tends to not be as allergenic, but the hay itself can be. And sometimes people think they're allergic to the bunny when they're actually allergic to the hay. And bunnies do need to be groomed as well. So brushing your bunny, there's little bunny brushes, they're cute. And for the most part, if you're gentle, they actually really like it. They tend to get more sheddy, like in the spring. And some breeds shed less, like our American breed rabbit. He sheds a lot less than our mini Rexes, who shed a lot, especially in the springtime when I'm recording this. Okay, so number 11, having a pet bunny can be expensive. So don't go into it naively thinking, oh, just give it some vegetables, which hopefully you will give the bunny, you know, lots of yummy vegetables. But it can be expensive. So having a good idea of the cost of the bunny, they will need medical care. If they're not eating a lot of hay, like two of ours, have trouble eating certain hard things, they might have to get their teeth filed down. They do have things that come up. And just, you know, if you're giving some kibble, we'll talk about feeding in another video, but whatever you're feeding them between the hay, the vegetables, the litter, you know, the kibble, all of that, and the medical care, it can be expensive. And getting the bunny set up, like with a hutch and all the things that you need, which again, I'll talk about that in another video, can also be expensive. So just kind of know what you're getting into. If you have financial issues, it's not good to take on any pet if you can help it, because you need to give these animals care and it will cost some money. Okay, yeah, so we're definitely, we want to avoid anyone who isn't in a financial situation to take care of a bunny, to avoid that, because it's really heartbreaking to shuffle an animal around, and they do have feelings and they do feel that. So, and also it could be stressful for you. So we want to avoid that. Yeah, so it's important to know what you're getting yourself into before you get into it. So number 12 is that bunnies are nocturnal. My daughter likes to have bunnies in her space. So we have two of the bunnies are in a 2-story crate. They each have their own space in her room. It's on wheels. During the day, they're out where she can play with them. At night, we move them into a further part in the closet, because they do play. They do play in the night. They do eat in the night. They do rattle around in the night. So I strongly suggest hutches on wheels, because you will find that maybe you want to move them to have some daylight. Maybe, you know, their nighttime space. You don't want to just stick them in the closet and forget about them. You know, they do like to be out with everybody. And so having a hutch on wheels is very helpful, because you can move them around, you know, according to your rhythm in a way that works for you. So another thing that is not on the number 12 list, but that I really beseech you, if it turns out that you get a bunny or you have a bunny and you can't take care of it anymore, please do not release it into the wild. The domestic bunnies are not really going to handle that well, and there are so many things that eat them. Cars, and they're not aware of those types of things for the most part. So you can contact a local animal shelter for resources. If it's just that, you know, you need kibble or you need help with, feeding them, sometimes the shelters can help with that. Or if there's medical care and, if you had the medical care, you could keep the bunny, sometimes the shelters can help with that. So they have lots of resources. So contact your local shelter. And in the event that any of the resources that they're helping you with doesn't, make it so much that you can keep the bunny, then at least they can help you to find a good home. And do make sure that if you are placing your bunny somewhere, to have them watch this video beforehand to make sure that they're a perfect match for the bunny, before, to avoid the shuffling around. So the goal is to give a bunny their forever home, to avoid shuffling them around, to avoid the heartache, the stress, the cost for you and the bunny, and the time of having to rehome them, by making sure beforehand that this is a good match for you.